The Houston Texans will pull off the impossible, and I still believe that this team is a contender in the AFC. Now, it has been a very rocky start for the Houston Texans, to say the least. Nobody could have predicted that this team would have started 0-3, that the offense would look this anemic, especially after the struggles last year, and then into the additions that this team made offensively this offseason to what was supposed to be a really, really good year for the Texans overall. And that's what everybody expected of this team. And I was one of the people yelling it from the mountaintops. I said, okay, in the AFC, everybody understands that it's the Chiefs, the Bills, and the Ravens. And we're all wondering who in this tier B category of the Texans, the Chargers, and maybe the Bengals if Joe Burrow is healthy, who in that tier B category was really going to push through and make it into the tier A category. And I was saying from the mountaintops, I think it's going to be the Houston Texans. This team has one of the best defenses in football, maybe the best secondary in the NFL. Will Anderson Jr. is going to take a Defensive Player of the Year jump. They re-signed Danielle Hunter. I felt tremendous about this defense, and thus far, it's been maybe the best in football. Now, offensively, that's where they struggled last year, but if you're going to consider that a struggling year, a team winning a playoff game with a second-year quarterback where the offensive line is one of the worst in football, you have everybody in that receiving core get injured, yet CJ Stroud wills his team to victory and still wins a playoff game. They added some receivers. They went in the draft, picked up 2 guys out of Iowa State. They brought in Christian Kirk, and they also upgraded this offensive line. So I felt like offensively, this team was going to be able to put the puzzle pieces together, and it has been far from that so far to start the year. Now, the 0-3 start, it was just so head scratching, to be quite honest. I mean, I did not know what I was watching. You saw that Rams game. They lose by 5 points. They had many opportunities where they don't even put up a touchdown, and yet this defense holds one of the best offenses in football in the Los Angeles Rams to only 14 points. Stroud and the boys are driving at the very end to try and win it. We see that fumble, and the Texans lose it. Okay, only one game. They got a massive opportunity on Monday Night Football against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They get that huge touchdown at the very end. The defense just continues to battle and continues to get the offense the football back, and they couldn't do anything, but they were able to break through at the very end, score that touchdown. Now Baker Mayfield gets an opportunity to lead a game-winning drive. It's a 4th and 10. He breaks free, leads the Buccaneers to a game winner. They're now 0-2. Okay, well, 2 tough opponents. The Rams and Buccaneers are 2 really, really good teams. You've got 2 big AFC South opponents that you need to have in the AFC South, which you've won over the last 2 years. You've got to have both of these games. Against the Jacksonville Jaguars, it was another anemic performance, but you get the ball in a 10-10 game where Nico Collins gets it right outside of the red zone. He fumbles it. Jaguars get the ball. They go and score a touchdown and win the game. I mean, it has been inexcusable losses. I mean, 3 one-score games in the first 3 games of the season against 3 teams that are all pretty decent. Jacksonville on the road is a good opponent that they really needed to win for the AFC South. And in the NFL, once you drop to 0-3, your chances to make the NFL playoffs go all the way down to 3%. That is not good for a team that has a playoff win in each of the last 2 years. And CJ Stroud really achieved history by doing that. He was one of 6 quarterbacks in NFL history to win a playoff start in each of his first 2 seasons in the NFL. And that's why I felt like with an upgraded offense, one of the best defenses in football, this Texans team was going to be ready to enter that tier A group with the Chiefs, Bills, and Ravens. And we haven't seen that from them, but they took their best step forward this year so far. They dominated Tennessee. Now, that's not saying a lot. Tennessee is in a rebuilding phase with Cam Ward, the number 1 overall pick, but they really did a nice job offensively, and that's what you wanted to see from this team overall. Can they take a step in the right direction on the offensive side of the ball? Because they've been anemic so far. CJ Stroud had his best day of the year, 22 of 28 passing, 233 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. The running game really started to look good with Woody Marks, who really has emerged as this running back too. We all understand that Joe Mixon is injured and he's not going to come back for a few weeks. So it was really Nick Chubb's backfield for the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season. They drafted this running back in Woody Marks out of USC this year, and he really got some good run. He led the team in carries, 17 carries, 69 yards for 1 touchdown. he looked really solid, and the Texans really haven't had much of a run game all season long. So if they can continue to use him as the bell cow back until Joe Mixon comes back, this Houston team is going to have a pretty solid backfield. But this team has still got question marks offensively. Like, I know they put up 26 points, and you're doing it against the Tennessee Titans, but 20 of those points came in the fourth quarter. They were still nowhere to be found offensively until the fourth quarter started. They put up 6 points, 2 field goals in the first 3 quarters of the game. I mean, it's not going to get it done, especially with how good this defense has been. You look at the defense right now. They are giving up the 5th fewest yards per game, and they are giving up, ladies and gentlemen, the fewest points per game. They are giving up less than 13 points per game, and they've played 2 of the most explosive offenses in football. The Los Angeles Rams are unbelievable right now, and they may have the offensive player of the year on their team in Puka Nacua, and they were held to 14 points, and the Texans had a chance to go win that game in week 1. In week 2, Baker and the Buccaneers, that's been one of the best offenses in football statistically since Baker has been there. They were unbelievable last year, and they should have won that game if they wouldn't have let up that 4th and 10 on that final drive. But that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. And this is where we're finding ourselves with the Houston Texans. You look at this team offensively, the stats are cringeworthy. They are brutal. They are in the bottom 10 in terms of yards per game. And this is even worse. They are averaging the 4th fewest points per game at 16. You're looking at teams of the likes of the New Orleans Saints putting up more points than them, the New York Giants, the Carolina Panthers. That's not going to cut it. That's not going to cut it for the Houston Texans, who have a borderline top 5 quarterback in CJ Stroud, who've got Nico Collins, who hasn't been involved enough in this offense, especially early on. He's starting to get a little more run. He's really starting to put it together these last 2 weeks, in specific weeks 1 and 2. Not gonna cut it. This Texans team, though, they've got a huge matchup this week against the Baltimore Ravens, and this is what starts to give me a little bit of hope. It was a do or die for both of these teams, quite frankly, because if you go to 1 and 4, you can really kiss it goodbye. You can kiss the postseason goodbye. If you drop to 1 and 4, this is a must win for both of these teams. You understand the statistics. If you have a 3% chance to make the playoffs when you are 0 and 3, newsflash, it's going to get worse if you are 1 and 4. If you add another loss to that, the Baltimore Ravens more than likely aren't going to have Lamar Jackson. That's huge for Houston, and Baltimore also has a ton of injuries defensively. So this is going to be really interesting to see. And I never thought I'd be saying this, but it's like, which offense is going to perform better? It should be Houston, but 4 weeks in, the tape would tell you otherwise, because they haven't been there on the offensive side of the ball. Cooper Rush and the Baltimore Ravens, he's had some success in the past as a backup quarterback. We saw it when he took over for Dak Prescott a few years ago, and when I want to say he went 5-1 in the 6 games where he took over for Dak. So we need to see a lot from this Texans defense, and they're going to have to load the box. They're going to have to commit to stopping Derrick Henry and force Cooper Rush to beat you. If Cooper Rush beats you and he ultimately boots you from the playoffs, all right, so be it. At least I'm not going to let Derrick Henry beat me and rush for 300 yards. You cannot let Derrick Henry beat you, and it seems like Lamar's not going to play, so that is a huge advantage for the Texans. Baltimore defensively also has been really shaky, so this is going to be a really good opportunity for Houston to have another good week on that side of the ball. Baltimore right now is giving up the most points per game in the NFL at 33, and they are also giving up the 2nd most yards per game. So Houston right now, the silver lining for them is they are 1 and 3, but they're starting to heat up a little bit. No Lamar Jackson. The offense just had its best game of the season. Let's take another step forward. Let's see what you can do now. Let's see if you can save the season in week 5, because I believe in you guys. I believe the Texans can do it, but they've got to put together a great performance offensively. We understand the defense will show up, and I believe they will do their best to neutralize Derrick Henry. And if you can neutralize Derrick Henry, I think the Baltimore Ravens do not have a chance without Lamar Jackson. Houston's got to get this one done, or else you can say it, Houston, we've got a problem. I like the Texans to get this one done here. They move to 2 and 3, where they've got a huge game on the road against Seattle, but I like Houston to get this one done. They save their season. Do not panic on the Houston Texans. For now, you can hit the panic button if they drop to 1 and 4, and you already know I'll have a video talking about it if they do. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much for tuning in. My name is Caden Kubler, and we'll see you guys later.